If you're holding Bitcoin stocks right now, watching them crash 50, 60, even 80%, don't sell them until you see what I'm about to show you. MetaPlanet crashed 78% last year. 12 separate times it crashed over 20%. And yet early investors are still up 3,700%. How is that even possible? Real quick, I'm Mark Moss. I'm a partner at a Bitcoin venture fund actively investing in these Treasury companies. And what I found in this data completely changed the way that we're positioning for what's coming next. And if you understand what happens about every 45 days like clockwork, you'll realize that this crash might be the best opportunity this year. So let's go. All right, so don't hit that sell button just yet. Are we talking about a digital gold rush, or is it time to head for the exits? All right, let's frame this up a little bit so we should know if we're about to get out of the way or take position and watch out for the next run. Okay, so first of all, we are talking about something that's a completely new asset class. It's completely misunderstood by 99% or more of the people. Now, first of all, we're talking about Bitcoin, which is its own new asset class. So Bitcoin is the first new asset class we've had in 500 years. We had real estate, we had commodities, we had equities, and now we have Bitcoin, all right? First new asset class in 500 years. And it's different. There's a lot of new things that we can do and build in this new financial system with this new financial asset. Now, we've seen companies like MicroStrategy, and we can see how they've completely outperformed everything for the last 12 months. So from August 2024 to August 2025, Bitcoin has returned 75%, which has completely smoked gold, the Mag 7, S&P 500, real estate, bonds, everything. But MicroStrategy or strategy has doubled the performance of that in the same time period. It's about 2 times more volatile to the upside, and yes, sometimes to the downside. So we have a new asset, and we have a new financial system being built on top of this new asset. Now, we already know that this asset is volatile. That's one of the things that most people say about Bitcoin. But isn't it volatile? Yes, it is. That's why it's so much further up. And this new asset is even more volatile. So that's what we want to answer. Should we sell now or should we go away? Here's a 5-year chart. Let's just look at this real quick. So again, Bitcoin has averaged almost 60% per year for the last 5 years, cumulatively 885%. Again, smoking every other asset that's out there, 58%. And again, MicroStrategy has almost doubled that for a 3,000% return in the same 5-year period. I also have MetaPlanet here. MetaPlanet is the first company that was able to successfully duplicate the strategy. They launched in Japan about 1.5 years ago. Last year, they were the best performing stock in the world, not Japan, in the world last year. And we can see how this is compared to other assets that are in Japan. So we can see that the stock has done 3,631% compared to other things like Hitachi, 40%, Sony, 60%, Mitsubishi, 46%, the SPY, the S&P 500, 24%, et cetera, 3,600%. So these companies are much more volatile, so they're down a little bit right now. And people are asking, is it over? Did the bubble burst? Should I sell now or should I enter? And that's what we want to take a look at right now. And of course, we're going to use data to guide us down that path. Now, the first thing we want to understand is that, again, I said MetaPlanet was the first one to successfully duplicate the strategy. Once they proved that they could duplicate the strategy, then other people have entered to duplicate the strategy. And we've seen dozens of new followers coming in. And most of these are coming from what we call different jurisdictions. So we have the US, now we have Japan, now we have Sweden, now we have Brazil, now we have the UK, etc. And what we've seen is these companies had massively explosive gains, huge gains. As a matter of fact, we're talking 3,000%, 5,000%, 8,000%, but they've all sold off. So let's take a look at just a couple of these charts, just so you can see this. I'd love to show you the charts so you can understand this. Here's MetaPlanet. It was up 8,000%, and now it's sold all the way off. It's down 60% off of its high, but obviously it's still up on some big gains. But look, it went up and it came down. It went up and came down. It went up, came all the way down. It went up and it came down. Does it go up next? Well, we're going to answer that in a second. Here's one in the UK, Smarter Web Company. We can see this one went up by 8,000%. Look at this one. As a matter of fact, from here it went up 24,000% and has since come down about 85%. Massive. But again, it went up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. We can see here. Here's H100. I think this is a company out of Sweden. Again, same thing. We can see they went all the way up 1,900%, and now they're down all the way down about 65%. Here's the last one I'm going to show you, Capital B. This is out of France. Same thing. They saw a massive explosion, 1,300%, and now they're down about 70%. Okay, so huge gains and some pullbacks. If you bought here, you're still sitting really, really good. If you bought here, though, you're dealing with some pain. So what comes next? And again, we want to look at data. Okay, so the question is, what's going on? Is this over? Well, we're going to look at data to try to understand this. Now, by the way, just real quick, if you don't make it all the way to the end, next week I'm going to be having a live presentation where I'm going to break down all of this data for you. I'm going to give you all the new indicators you should be watching for. We're going to be looking at the companies that I have my eye on. I'm going to be making predictions of where we're going, and I'm going to open it up for live Q&A so we can all talk about this. I can share all the information. You can understand this a bit better. There's a link down below. It's all free if you want to come hang out. There's a QR code right here. Come hang out. It's going to be fun. But let's go ahead and just jump right in. So is it over? Well, what we want to do is we want to compare MetaPlanet and MicroStrategy. Why those? Because all the ones that I just showed you are like 4 or 5 months old. So we want to go back and have as much data as we can. So we'll look at these two that have some time. Like I said, we have about 18 months of time here. We have 5 years of time here. And what we see when we look at the data, we want to see what are the cycles. So Bitcoin typically moves in a 4-year cycle. What kind of cycles do these move into? And what's the correlation between Bitcoin, because Bitcoin isn't down that much right now, or is there correlation between each other? So first of all, let's look at MetaPlanet. All right, so it's the first one to duplicate the strategy. It's been around about, like I said, about 18 months. And so that's the one that's going to give us the most data to try to understand this. Now, in this chart, what we have are these pink areas. And the pink areas are the drawdowns. These are the bear markets. Again, we've had about 12 bear markets that have gone down by more than 20% in this time period in the last 18 months. And so you can see bear market, bear market, bear market, right? Bear market. We've had some big ones. I wanted to show you just that visually, but let's kind of break this down so what we can see. Now, how long have they lasted? How severe have they been? Well, the average drawdown has been 32%. Pretty deep bear market. The average duration has been 20 days. However, that's just the average. There's ones longer and shorter. The most severe was 79%, and it lasted 119 days, so about 4 months, and that was last year from July to November of last year. So about 4 months and 80% drawdown. Much deeper and more severe than it is today, and it's lasted longer than what we have today. And it came back for huge returns. The shortest correction, 1 day, the longest correction, again, 120 days, 78% drawdown. The significant dips of 10 or more, we've seen 24 of those just in this time frame, 24. 12 of more than 20%, again, average drawdown 21%, et cetera. Okay, but what we want to take a look at is to try to understand this a little bit better. And how correlated are they? How could we tell when these things are going to happen? Well, there's a couple things that we can see. So first of all, we can see that MetaPlanet averages 2.6 times the severity of Bitcoin's drawdown. So we like these companies, I like these companies, because they should return 2, 3, 5 times what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin goes up 10 times, these should go up 20, 30, or 50 times. I like that. But volatility works both ways. So if Bitcoin goes down 2 times, if it goes down 1 time, they can go down 2 times, 3 times, 5 times. You see how that works? And so they're currently about 2.6 times the severity, both to the upside and to the downside. In July to November 2024, when MetaPlanet went down 78%, almost 79%, Bitcoin's multiple only went down 20 to 26%. So Bitcoin went down 20, 26%. MetaPlanet went down almost 79%. February to May 2025, MetaPlanet went down 54% versus, again, Bitcoin only went down as much as 28%. So again, about 2 times, 2.5 times. All right. Now, what about the speed and recovery? It's a lot slower. Spoiler, MetaPlanet's corrections are 4.8 times longer, so Bitcoin recovers much faster than it takes MetaPlanet. in duration and recover 5.1 times slower than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin crashes and rebounds, and it takes a while for MetaPlanet to get back there. So a lot of people are like, well, I know Bitcoin hit its 120,000 price range, and now it's whatever 108, 110,000. So why are these companies so far down? Well, number one, because they draw down much more severely. Volatility works both ways. And two, they don't bounce back as fast. Maximum duration of disparity, 120 days versus only 10 days. So Bitcoin only had, during the times they were synchronized, Bitcoin only took about 10 days to get back versus, again, MetaPlanet took 4 months to get back. In this July to November 2024 period, MetaPlanet's single day, 119-day correction overlapped with 6 separate Bitcoin mini bear markets. So during that 120-day cycle, Bitcoin had 6 mini bear markets within that time period. So it's not super correlated with Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, I believe only 5 out of 12 have been correlated with Bitcoin's price. So if you're just looking at the Bitcoin price, trying to understand what's happening with these, you're going to completely miss out. They have their own company-specific factors, and when they do overlap, they get extended. Now, we know that Bitcoin has these 4-year cycles. So about every 4 years, Bitcoin has this cycle. What's happening with these companies is they have like 12 cycles in 1 year. All right, so we have to understand they're very, very cyclical. But what we can see from this data is what we've seen with MetaPlanet and these other companies' drawdowns. It's not near as severe as we've seen in the past. The last time we saw it had this severe of a drawdown, it went on to return over 1,000% returns, and it hasn't even been as long either. Now, if we compare MetaPlanet to MicroStrategy, we see a lot more interesting data. So for example, MetaPlanet wasn't very correlated to Bitcoin, less than 50%, but it's 55% correlated with each other, more than with Bitcoin itself. And if we look at some of the data here, we can see similar, but not as severe, and I'll explain why. In April to May of 2024, MicroStrategy went down 46%, while MetaPlanet had multiple 22 to 25% corrections. So again, now you have MicroStrategy drawing down, and MetaPlanet has many drawdowns within that. June to July 2024, MicroStrategy went down 33%, and MetaPlanet again had 24 to 25% corrections. August to September, MicroStrategy was down 40%, MetaPlanet was down 78%, so it had this amplification because it's more volatile. What do I mean by more volatile? So Bitcoin is more volatile than the S&P 500. It means it goes up more, but it goes down more. Right? I showed you that. MicroStrategy is more volatile than Bitcoin. So it goes up almost 2 times Bitcoin. It goes down almost 2 times Bitcoin. MetaPlanet goes up 3 or 4 times Bitcoin, and it comes down 3 or 4 times Bitcoin, right? So they're more severe, and we can see that here in January to April, they were about parity. MicroStrategy and MetaPlanet pulled down about the same. If we look at a couple more data points here, and then I'm going to move on, but we can see that MicroStrategy amplifies Bitcoin's corrections by 1.9 times, and MetaPlanet amplifies Bitcoin's corrections by 2 times. So it's a little more volatile. It's going to make you more money on the up, but you're also going to be having bigger drawdowns on the way down. MetaPlanet's 15 times outperformance over MicroStrategy comes with surprisingly modest additional volatility risk. So the volatility hasn't changed that much, but it outperforms. Again, it returned 3,000% versus MicroStrategy returning 156%. MetaPlanet average drawdown 32%, MicroStrategy's 27%. So to understand volatility, you have to understand the downside and the upside. Maximum drawdowns, MetaPlanet 78, MicroStrategy 49. But the recovery time was different. Again, MetaPlanet took 2.7 times longer to recover than MicroStrategy. So what happens is you want to think about your volatility and your risk, and you kind of want to think about it like this, almost like a pyramid. And so the money that you don't want to have severe drawdowns, a big majority of it's going to go right here. Now, I might have a little bit of room for risk. I can have a little bit of drawdown, so I might put a little bit of money here, and then I'm going to take some moonshots, and I'm going to put a couple positions up here, and I know they're going to be super volatile, but they can make huge returns. And that's exactly how these Bitcoin Treasury companies are. Now, what comes next? That's the question on everybody's mind. Are these companies coming back? Was it a blow off top that never comes back? Well, we have to understand that they're cyclical in nature. All right, so I just showed you that instead of 1 cycle every 4 years, they're having like 12 cycles every 1 year, right? So they're cyclical in nature. We know that they're 2 to 5 times more volatile than Bitcoin or than each other, and it works in both directions. But I do believe, and I'm going to show you why, I do believe the good companies, the good Bitcoin Treasury companies, should 2 to 5x Bitcoin. So again, if Bitcoin goes up 10x in the next 5 years, these should go up 20 times, 30 times, or 50 times in the next 5 years. So the next question is, what's going to happen with Bitcoin? Well, let's take a look at that. So here's a couple charts I have. This is a chart that I got from Strategy's Q2 earnings call. This is Michael Saylor put this together. And this is not his forecast for Bitcoin. This is all the top research analysts predicting for Bitcoin. Now what we can see is Barclays gives it an end of the year price target of 116, Bernstein 200, BTIG Compass 150, Wainwright 225, Maxim 235. Basically, nobody knows. But they're all taking educated guesses. If we average this all up, it puts an end of the year price target of 168, 170,000. So maybe Bitcoin goes up 50%, 60% by the end of the year. And these companies, 2, 3, 5 times more volatile, could go up way more. But who cares about the end of the year? Where's Bitcoin going to be in 5 years and 15 years? That's the question you should be asking yourself. So let's take a look at this. Now I've shown you this chart several times. If you watch my channel regularly, you've already seen this. And this is basically taking all what we call store of value assets: Bitcoin, gold, collectibles, equities, real estate, bonds, money. So all of what we call store of value assets. And it's predicting how much that basket will grow until the end of the decade, 2030, and it's based off of the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, predicting how much debt, how much deficit spending, the budget, all of that, and it predicts that based off of that. And per this, I'm putting a price target of $21 trillion on Bitcoin's market cap by 2030, which means it's about $1 million per Bitcoin, or about a 10x from here, an 8x from here, something like that. So a good company should do 2 or 3x or more than that. So if Bitcoin goes up 10x, they can go up 20x or 30x. Okay, that's by 2030. What about if we look at by 2040? Again, this is based off of the Congressional Budget Office numbers. And by 2040, it puts Bitcoin at about a $289 trillion market cap, or $14 million per coin. And a good company should do 2, 3, or 5x that. So that's what we're looking for Bitcoin, and we're looking at even more for these really good companies. So for me, they're buys and holds. Now, I said good companies. Not every company is a good company, so you want to make sure you buy the right company. If you'd like my Treasury report card so you can understand how to determine a good company versus a bad company, then come hang out with me live. I'm going to break this all down. I'll go through the scorecard. I'll give you your own so you can start rating your own companies. I'll show you the companies that I like the best that I'm watching. We'll hang out. We'll do it all live so I can answer all your questions live. We'll put a link down below. We'll put a QR code right here. But get the Treasury report. Come hang out with me. And if you want to know more about where this data goes and how I broke this down so you can actually see the math behind it, then you might want to watch this video right here, and I'll see you over there.